A commitment tonight to keep the Indo-Pacific region free from coercion. The pledge has been made by the United States, India, Japan and Australia. Together they make up the Quad. Now that is an informal alliance created more than a decade ago to counter China's regional influence. Live to our correspondent in just a moment, but first a look at how that meeting went down.
Presenting a united front in Australia, Quad members have pledged to deepen regional cooperation and ensure the Indo-Pacific is free from coercion.
Our region is in a period of rising strategic uncertainty. The rules and norms that have provided a foundation for our stability and hence our prosperity are under pressure, in particular from authoritarian regimes.
No names were mentioned, but it's believed to be a veiled swipe at China. The alliance is concerned over what it sees as Beijing's growing influence in the region. The tussle also comes as ties between the United States and China are at their lowest in decades.
I think we share concerns that in recent years China has been acting more repressively at home and more aggressively in the region and indeed potentially beyond.
COVID-19, climate change and cybersecurity were also discussed. The grouping has agreed to strengthen cooperation on cyber and counter-terrorism. Member nations have also pledged to curb illegal fishing in the region.
And Nick Harper joins us live from Washington, D.C. Nick, well, a mention of coercion, but careful non-mention of who is doing the coercing. What's the Quad trying to say?
That's right, absolutely. All four countries very careful not to mention China by name, but it really is the elephant in the room. They instead spoke about authoritarian regimes, very clear who they meant. I mean, that's the whole point of the Quad. They always state that it's not about China, that building this alliance, strengthening the ties between the four countries is about other things. But it's really about China. That is the concern at the back of everybody's minds, that there is this continuing growth of China economically, militarily in the region. Each of the four countries have that shared concern about the rise of China. They also spoke, when they said coercion in the region, that was in reference to China, but they also spoke about what brought them together. Secretary Blinken tried to frame it around the idea of unity. He said this group of countries is brought together not by what we're against, but rather what we're for, and that is a free and open Indo-Pacific. But they are concerned about that coercion. In terms of the economics, worried about the trade boycotts that China has recently put in place against Australia and also Lithuania. Now, Blinken was asked directly about China. He did respond to that in a question. He said that confrontation with China was not inevitable, but he did say that the four countries shared concerns that China was acting aggressively. So certainly this partnership is about strengthening ties in the region, but really trying to strengthen ties so that they can counter that rise of China.
Nick, also the idea from the very start for the Quad being inclusive, fluid and issue-specific, and therefore compatible with more established organizations such as ASEAN. How can these two very different groupings work together?
I think this echoes what the Biden administration has really tried to do from the start. This idea of building alliances and building partnerships around the world, trying to be inclusive. And that means working with those established organizations, the established groupings like ASEAN. The Biden administration has really tried to be more inclusive. The fact that it feels there is strength in meeting with other partnerships and growing other partnerships. The Quad has spoken in the past about the centrality and unity of ASEAN. They've said that it's at the heart of the Indo-Pacific. And when you look at the pure geography of this, the ASEAN members are there. They're right in the heart of the Indo-Pacific region, whereas the Quad members are perhaps on the outer rim of it. And therefore, they see ASEAN right in the center of issues. And that includes Myanmar. Myanmar being a member of ASEAN, the US and other Quad partners feel that ASEAN has a real role to play in dealing with the situation in ASEAN. We saw that just a few weeks ago when the UN Security Council met to discuss the issue of Myanmar. They had an ASEAN member there to be able to speak about it as well. There is that 5-point plan that ASEAN has drawn up, and now it's really an issue of trying to implement it to find some accountability about what's happening in Myanmar. So the US is looking to those type of partnerships, and President Biden plans to welcome the ASEAN members in Washington later this year. So it is about strengthening those partnerships and drawing on what's already in place and seeing how they can better understand and deal with the issues at play in the region.
Thanks for that, Nick Harper, speaking to us there from Washington, D.C.